Welcome to Crypto Polaris. My name is Zia, and do I have a show for you today? This is going to be all about MicroStrategy getting in trouble. Everyone is saying MicroStrategy is dead. There is so much FUD, and everyone is calling Michael Saylor names and Ponzi schemes. So let's talk about this. So welcome back. Again, this is Zia. I am excited to be back. It's been a while. I haven't done a video, but I missed you guys. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So let's talk about this a little bit. What is going on with MicroStrategy? Why didn't MicroStrategy get inside of S&P 500? Is this a big deal? Is this the end of MicroStrategy? Why is MicroStrategy shares going down and down and down? It was only $400 and some a month and a half ago. Now it's in the low 300s. Everyone is panicking and everyone is calling Michael Saylor names. I am shocked and surprised to see how people turn simply on one news. We've been through this over and over and over, guys. So let's bring up the agenda and let's go through these things one by one so we all understand what we are doing here, okay? So on the agenda today, and I want to go through all of these things. I have slides for quite a few of these and very complicated price prediction for you. But before I talk about all of that, let's talk a little bit about the fundamentals of Bitcoin. I think people are forgetting what is the reason Bitcoin exists. What is the reason MicroStrategy exists? It's very simple, guys. Bitcoin is the new underpinning of the new financial system that is literally being developed as we speak. Don't forget what has happened in the last 3-4 months. The Genius Act has passed and it is now the law. Clarity Act is about to be passed. And Bitcoin Reserve Act is also in the Senate by Cynthia Lummis that is going to allow our US government to secure up to 1 million Bitcoin. It hasn't even started, guys. So the Bitcoin went to 124,000. Now it's sitting at 110, 109. What is the big deal? It takes time. Nothing goes up straight. So take a deep breath. Remember the fundamentals. Nothing has changed with respect to the fundamentals. Actually, let me say it this way. Everything has changed with respect to fundamentals for Bitcoin. It has become stronger and stronger. Bitcoin, as I have other videos that speaks to price prediction, I won't go through all of that. MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor pivoted back in 2020 to start buying Bitcoin into his treasury. MicroStrategy is not simply a Bitcoin treasury company. There are other copycat companies that have taken the Bitcoin corporate treasury and started Ethereum, Dogecoin, Fartcoin. It's ridiculous what is happening. Take a deep breath. We're just fine. MicroStrategy is just fine. So let me walk you through all of that. So this FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Oh my goodness, CFTC is now going to have all sorts of rules and regulations to oversee companies that are commodities, Bitcoin, XRP. That's great. I welcome that. It's no big deal for fully functional companies. We don't want all these meme coins after meme coins. There's 30 million coins out there. 99% of those are beginning to disappear because of CFTC, because of SEC. And then all this thing that came out about NASDAQ now going to govern Bitcoin treasury, Ethereum treasury types of companies that are listed on NASDAQ. If you don't get shareholders' vote, they will be delisted. Guys, this is nothing new. Every company has all sorts of rules and regulations they must follow. It's part of the compliance game. This is good for the industry. MicroStrategy is not going to have any issues whatsoever to get a board resolution and immediately get a shareholder's approval to buy and buy and buy. Everyone calm down, okay? I know majority of the influencers that are out there and a lot of these tweets out there for clickbait reasons, you want to scare everyone. But guys, I exist here to bring rationale, bring objectivity, bring fundamentals behind MicroStrategy, behind Bitcoin, and other cryptos that I actually do videos on. Example would be Ethereum. Example would be XRP. Example would be SUI. And there are others. You can go through my list of things that I invest in, that I understand the fundamentals, and I am sharing the fundamentals with you. Okay? So then, we talked about the rumors and S&P 500. So let's talk a little bit about the S&P 500. Did you really think S&P 500 is going to immediately take MicroStrategy and embrace them? Of course not. It is a committee. It is an old school committee. People invest in S&P for stability reasons. So MicroStrategy has to prove itself, earnings after earnings. Probably may need a year or two before they get in. Nothing wrong with that. So everyone calm down. Tesla took a year and a half before they got in. And there's a DoorDash, another company, took years to get in. The requirements are requirements. You got to meet minimum requirements. Following the GAAP accounting practices, you must be profitable 4 quarters in a row. That's just bare minimum. It doesn't mean automatic entry, just like you get entered into NASDAQ 100 and MicroStrategy is there. MicroStrategy gets in, doesn't get in, no big deal. I'm going to walk you through a lot of these things. And where is strategy going? I want to talk about that with you. Let's talk about how people should value the price of MicroStrategy. Very important stuff. And let's get going. Very elaborate price prediction. Okay? So everybody thinks Bitcoin is being procured by MicroStrategy to simply be a Bitcoin treasury company. Yes, that's how you start. But MicroStrategy has these plans. In my opinion, they want to be a Bitcoin bank. In my opinion, they're going to do all sorts of lending around Bitcoin. They may even do mortgages where there are no intermediaries needed. If you've bought a house right now, it's complicated. You've got this much paperwork to sign. You've got escrow people on all of that. So with the Bitcoin underneath, with the blockchain, I think they're going to offer all sorts of lending, including mortgages. Technologies such as wallets, they may even create a wallet or they may partner with someone to do that. They may even offer Bitcoin credit cards and then all sorts of Wall Street types of products and services that they can offer. As an example, assets and wealth management, private equity, all of these things that Goldman Sachs of the world and others do. There is nothing that prevents MicroStrategy by holding all this wealth to be able to do this. So as the price of Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy becomes more and more involved in these areas. Okay? And of course, fintech is wide open. So we'll see what happens there. So strategy is more than just a Bitcoin treasury company. They haven't even started, guys. There's so much that Michael Saylor is going to do with this. And that's where the next topic comes in, okay? Which is, how do you value MicroStrategy? These are slides that you're going to see, next 3 to 4 slides, that I have taken from MicroStrategy's last earnings call, where the president and the CEO, Fong Vu, I believe that's his name. Forgive me, Fong. I know you as first name, not that I know you. He went through painstakingly, making a justification of how MicroStrategy's MNAV should be valued. All these discussions are on MNAV being 1-to-1. That's where it needs to go. No. He talks about MNAV needs to be 10 to 20 to 40x. So let's go through this. On the left is the traditional way MicroStrategy should be valued. On the right is the Bitcoin treasury company, how they currently get valued. So you're familiar with the right side. They take the NAV, which is the net asset value, the total asset value of the Bitcoins they have. So that's the price of Bitcoin times the number of Bitcoin. And then they apply a multiple, which is the MNAV, and they get the enterprise valuation. And that's how you get the per share value today. All right. Of course, in there is the gain of the Bitcoin that you have to throw in. On the left side, that's how traditional companies get price to earnings. They look at all these things based on earnings growth, margin efficiency, so on and so forth. There's about 9 bullets on the left side. If you look on the right side, based on BTC dollar gain, so on and so forth, there's a 1-to-1 correlation here. So this is the justification that the CEO of MicroStrategy was making last time, which leads me to the next slide. A typical company in S&P 500 gets 24 times price to earnings for their value of their stock. So look on the left side. the estimated net income for strategy will be 24 billion in 2025. They're number 13 on a list of all the companies. Look in the middle with respect to market cap. MicroStrategy, last time when they did this, was at $112 billion, which ranks them about 96th largest company in the world. And then you look at PE, price to earnings multiples. Look at Google, 18 times. Apple, 29 times. Strategy only gets 4.7 times. It doesn't make any sense. They're ranked 495th, low price to earnings. So I think the traditional finance people and the investors are learning where does MicroStrategy fit in and how this stock will be valued. And I'm going to show you that in my spreadsheet for price prediction. All right, look at this, guys. This is a slide from the CEO where he's saying MicroStrategy has access to all these different areas, including Stripe, Strike, Stride, and Stretch. The one in green has access to $60 trillion worth of capital out there that they can raise, or they can actually start to tap into that to get money to buy more Bitcoin. On the left side, in pink, MicroStrategy and Start are going after $35 trillion. And this is just an idea of where the money is floating around, and that's where all of these things are playing with respect to MicroStrategy. Now, this is what I want you to understand, and then I'm going to get into price prediction. So on the left side, if we were to value MicroStrategy today, traditionally, based on what other companies get valued, the multiple should be 10 times to 40 times. So their earnings are estimated to be 24 billion in 2025. You multiply that by 10, you get 240 billion, okay? And then on the other side, on the traditional, you multiply that 40x, which is an extreme case, you get $960 billion. Now, of course, Bitcoin treasury companies should be valued differently. It should be valued based on the formula that you see. The NAV plus the BTC gain, multiply that by an MNAV. Right now, today, the MNAV is 1.58 times. They're saying 10 times to 40 times. So all of you guys who are out there saying, oh my God, MicroStrategy needs to be 1-to-1 to be a good company, I think you guys are not thinking it through. MNAV should be treated like price to earnings. It should be, according to the CEO of MicroStrategy, 10x to 40x. So if it was 10x, you take 20 billion times 10 is 200, add the 75 billion, you get 275. On the high side, you take 20 billion, multiply that by 40x, you get 800 billion, plus you add the 75 billion, you get a valuation of $875 billion market cap for MicroStrategy. Today's market cap is roughly 100 billion. So this is 8.75 times what the share price is today. So if the share price is $325, you multiply that by 8.75, we are way below priced. All right, guys, let's do price prediction here. I want to go through some elaborate details. This is a very complex spreadsheet, but let's go through this as quickly as possible so you can understand what I've done here. So I want to focus your eyes on column E, which is the current, and then we're going to go through 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030. And I'll walk you through all that, and I'll really explain in details what these columns are and what the price predictions are. And before I get going here, let's talk a little bit about the shares that are out there for MicroStrategy. As you know, the shares have been getting diluted, meaning more shares are being made available as Michael Saylor buys and buys more Bitcoin. Obviously, he buys it through at the market, meaning using the common shares. And there are 5 other mechanisms that he uses also. But the one that concerns you and me most of the time are the common shares. So let's take a look at that. And I'm going to focus your eyes right here from 2020 all the way to 2025. You'll notice that when he started buying Bitcoin back in 2020, this was at 95 million outstanding shares. And over the years, slowly, he's released more and more shares. And where we are today is 285 million shares. Okay, that's what I'm going to use in my price prediction. So that's very important for you to understand. And that allows him to have right now in his treasury 636,000 Bitcoin, as you know, and we've talked about that. So before I go any further, over here, what I want to show you is only recently he has authorized 10.33 billion. Okay, 10.33 billions have been authorized, but they're not outstanding, meaning common shares, the total common shares right now that everyone has, meaning you and me, including the insiders and institutions, are around 285 million. Of course, the more Bitcoin he buys, the more this will get larger and larger, which means dilution. Okay? So let's go back to this. And I have taken dilution into my calculation. All right. So before I dive in, over here on this column, right here, starting from 2025 all the way to 2030, that's where I'm going to focus, because everybody talks about how from today's pricing of 111,000, by 2030, everyone talks about how it's going to get to at least 1 million. So let's assume for this price prediction, by 2030, we get to almost $1 million per Bitcoin. Okay, so these are the assumptions. So let's get started here. So I'm going to be focused on the current one, and let me explain what I have here. Okay, so as you know, this is the MNAV, and MNAV is multiples on net asset value. I think you already know that. I'm not going to re-explain all of that. We've already talked about this. All right, so right now it is 1.58, and today's price is $335.87. Based on all of that, the MicroStrategy's market cap is $96 billion and at the rate of $111,000 per Bitcoin. Okay, so far so good. And their net asset value, meaning the total number of Bitcoins, which is 636,505, you multiply that by 111, you get $70 billion. Then you multiply $70 billion by 1.58. That's how you get the actual market cap. Okay? So now let's keep going. Remember, in my previous slides, I talked about the CEO of MicroStrategy is saying they need to be priced on the MNAV, anywhere between 10 to 40x. I'm going to tone it down with respect to MNAV and see what the calculations show us. Okay? Now, right now they have 636,000 Bitcoin. Let's assume they want to get to 1 million by 2026. So when they get to 1 million, and I've got all these things down here, that means they need to buy another 363,000 Bitcoin. So how do they buy 363,000 more Bitcoin? You have to assume what the price of Bitcoin is going to be. So I said average price of Bitcoin in 2026, conservatively, $150,000 per Bitcoin. That means they have to raise $54 billion. Okay, that's very easy. 363,000 times 150,000 gets you $54 billion. That means they have to dilute the shares by 72 million shares, which means up in 2026, they're going to get to 358 million shares from 2025, 285 million. Are you with me so far? Okay. So I get that all calculated, and that then allows them for the year of 2026 to have a BTC gain of $123 billion. How does that happen? That's because I said the BTC price will be $194,000 by the time 2026 is over. So putting it all together, and MNAV is 5. So remember how the CEO says 10x to 40x? I'm just going to use 5. If I use 5 MNAV, that gets me $2,265 per share of MicroStrategy. Okay? So that's $2,265. Now, using the same logic, so this is 2026. Right here is 2026. Let's go to 2027. Over here, I said the MNAV is 7. Okay? And I also said they want to buy another 250,000 Bitcoin by 2027, which then gets them to 1.25 million Bitcoins. And using similar formula, if the average price of MicroStrategy is 2,900 shares, they need to dilute it by another 23 million shares, which means they raise $68 billion. So again, look at all the shares that are out there, okay? Which then ultimately gets you $5,335 per share, okay? I won't explain 2028, 2029, and 2030, but what I will show you in 2028, I use 10 MNAV. I also use 10 MNAV for 2029 and 10 MNAV for 2030. If you do that, let's go back to 2028, then the price of MSTR is $6,000. For 2029, the price of MSTR is $8,400. And then by 2030, the price of MSTR is $14,000. What does that mean with respect to enterprise value? When the price is $14,000, their enterprise value of MicroStrategy company or strategy is $5.4 trillion. Over here is 3.2 trillion. Over here, back to 2028, is $2.2 trillion. So guys, it's very easy to see. Right now is 336. For 2026, 2265. For 2027, 5335. 2028, 6,000. 2029, 8,400. And 2030, 14,161. I hope this makes sense to you because there are a lot of interesting things that are happening. And I did not use these large numbers other than 10 MNAV, and there's justification why MNAV should be very similar to price to earnings, and this is what the calculation is. All right, guys, I hope you understand where I am going with this. Traditional finance haven't woken up. They don't really understand how to price MicroStrategy. And MicroStrategy is going to get all sorts of ratings, approval, and all of that is coming. It is just starting. We are so early. Yes, at some point, MicroStrategy will be added to S&P 500. It's not the end of the world because MicroStrategy has access to money elsewhere. It would be nice to have a passive 16, 20, $50 billion going in, and it will eventually. So still very early, in my opinion, to buy MicroStrategy. Everything you've seen here is just my opinion, not financial advice. I hope you do your own due diligence. Stay strong, guys. Do not fall for these FUDs. No S&P, end of the world. Stock is tanking. Don't believe any of this. Shares diluting. I just showed you what happens to share dilution. It is a beautiful way that Michael Saylor has figured out how to raise money. There's a money glitch he's figured out. So I hope you liked everything, what I had to say. Please give me a thumbs up, like, as well as subscribe and send me DM. I look forward to listening to what you have to say, and I'll be doing another video tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.